Hello and welcome. It's new release day at Technique Junkies. All May new release stamps are on sale for 15% off until May the 8th. Here's a photo of all of the stamps that are this month's stamps. And there's also a Gotta Have It All bundle. So you save almost $25. If you are interested in the entire collection, then you want to grab this Gotta Have It All bundle. So with my code, which is TJ10Tracy, you can save 10% off non-sale items. So the bundle, for example, is a sale item. You wouldn't be able to apply another discount. All right, so today I'm going to be using the Magnolia Branch stamp to create a Mother's Day card. And then a little bit later, we're going to have a Father's Day card. So let's go ahead and get started. Again, this is the Magnolia Branch stamp, and I thought it would look nice on a slimline card. My plan is to heat emboss the slimline panel with gold embossing powder, and then do some ink blending over top of that. I thought that would look nice, so I'm going to be just using some clear embossing ink. But first I'm trying to adjust the position of the stamp on the paper. And by the way, this is going to be a slimline card, and I'm using a scalloped rectangle die that I purchased from Trinity Stamps a while ago. I don't think it's available anymore, but you could use any scalloped rectangle die or just a regular slimline die, or just trim your paper to be the size for slimline. All right. All right, so let's go ahead and get started embossing. I am using my Rabbit Hole Design embossing powder tool. It's a brush and it's telescoping. It has powder inside the handle. You'll notice that I am taping off my stamp. That's because I'm trying to avoid the watermark ink kind of going outside of the little stitched rectangle on that border, but it doesn't work in the end. So at the end, I just let it go. It's not really that big of a deal. So I have gold embossing powder, and it is from Nuvo. The Nuvo embossing powders come in really small mouth jars. So I always put mine in a larger mouth jar. It's just easier for me to avoid spills that way. All right, so I'm taking my heat gun and I am melting that embossing powder, which is, again, just gold from Nuvo. Already I like the way this looks. I'm going to stamp again because I've got a lot of space on this slimline card, can accommodate a lot of images. Okay, so I turned everything around a little bit and just wiping my stamp off. Now I'll take the watermark pad, the Versamark watermark ink pad, and then, well, first I'm going to figure out which way I'd like to position this. So this month with Technique Junkies release, we've got some really pretty floral images. We've got nice Father's Day stamps, and a couple other ones that I think you're going to really like a lot. I would encourage you to tune into my YouTube channel tonight at 8 o'clock. I'll be having a premiere where I walk through all of the stamps and show you the cards that I made with all the stamps. And so in the future, you'll see I'll have other videos and social media posts with the projects that I created using the new release. Again, I hope you'll join me tonight on my YouTube channel at 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. There will be a giveaway of some Technique Junkies stamps and products, and I will share with you one by one each stamp that's part of the release, as well as the cards that I made with those stamps. Okay, so this is what it looks like when I have both images. Well, I have the image stamped twice and embossed. And then I'm going to be ink blending it with Bellini ink, which is a pretty peach color, and Do-Si-Do. And unfortunately, my footage of me doing a lot of this ink blending is lost, but you get the picture. I'm basically ink blending little circles using alternating color, peach, pink, peach, pink. And what we're going to end up with is this real pretty panel that's ink blended that has this embossed floral image, and it's a slimline, so it turned out really nice. Now I have a previously released sentiment that says Happy Mother's Day, and I'm going to stamp that and heat emboss it with the same gold embossing powder, and then I'm going to die cut it and use it as my sentiment for this card. Let's go ahead and use our Versamark ink, stamp our image. I did use that Rabbit Hole Design embossing powder tool first before I stamped with Versamark. I will say I really do like that Rabbit Hole Design embossing powder tool. That was a gift from my friend Chow, and you don't have to worry about that powder getting on your fingers or anything. It just is so smooth, and it just creates a nice anti-static surface. And the purpose is to make sure that the stamp that you want embossed transfers, and otherwise it basically makes sure only the area that you want embossed gets embossed, because paper retains oils from your fingers and whatnot. All right, so this is what the panel looks like after I did the ink blending with Bellini and Do-Si-Do. So I'm going to take the same two colors and ink blend my sentiment. Now I am going in a fast forward mode just to save time on my video, and I'm just alternating pink and peach. I used a die from my stash, a Sizzix die, to cut out that sentiment. It was perfect, and I like how it's wavy on the edges, very much like the scalloped panel of my slimline panel. Once I have that, only that remains is just to put everything together. I have a slimline card base on white cardstock. I'll go ahead and use my tape runner and adhere my ink blended panel of peach and pink right on top. Getting it straight is always the tricky part for me anyways. That looks pretty good, and let's go ahead and add some of these really pretty gold flat back pearls. They're highly shiny and metallic. I got these from the ton back in early April at the stamp show in Allentown, Pennsylvania. There were a lot of great small stamp companies there, including Technique Junkies. I got the chance to work in the booth, which means I demonstrated some of the Technique Junkies products, but also the ton was there, and I picked up these little beads. But I really enjoyed being at the stamp show and demonstrating for Technique Junkies. I demonstrated the iZink products, which are glitter paint in a tube. They're a really great product. And because they're in a pouch with a cap, much like toothpaste, it doesn't dry out. All right, so for the sake of time, let's go ahead and look at this finished card. I really like how this turned out, and I'm hoping that it makes for a happy mother when I share it with my mom on Mother's Day. Now, let's make our second card. This stamp is Father and Son Fishing, and I'm going to use Pan Pastels to create a sunset background, as well as water, sort of like a lake. I have a piece of masking paper. I put that down on my card panel, and that will be sun, the sun over the lake. You could also have it sort of lower on the horizon to make it a sunset. But I thought that, usually when you're out fishing, it's a nice bright day. I thought it would be nice to have the sun overhead. So I'm just figuring out here where that stamp is going to be positioned, because I want to make sure that my water is above that line. So I'm going to start with blue Pan Pastel. This is turquoise and ultramarine. Those are the two colors that I end up using. If you're not familiar with Pan Pastels, they are highly pigmented, artist quality pastels, but not like the pastel crayons where there's a lot of fallout. These have very minimal fallout, and they're so easy to create with. They do have special sponges. They're what I use during this video. However, if you don't have the special sponges, you can just use makeup sponges. I like these sponges because they're dense and just the way that they feel. Everything is just so smooth with these sponges, and they're nicely contoured as well. I'm using some yellow now, and then I'll go in with orange. And this is one of the quickest ways to make a background. It's even quicker than ink blending. Now I have some magenta, and I'm blending that along the bottom of the orange. So we're going to have yellow, orange, magenta, blue, and then I'll go in with some brown. Anyways, you can get Pan Pastels through Blick Art Materials. I'll have that linked in my description box below, as well as I will have all the products that I use included in my description box. So to clean these little sponges, all you have to do is gently brush them across a piece of paper towel, or what I do sometimes, I'll have some scrap paper and I'll just gently rub them across the scrap paper. I've never put water on these at all. And I don't plan to, because they'll expand. You know how it is when you take a makeup sponge and you make it wet, it gets kind of expanded. But anyways, what I just did was I used just a generic makeup sponge for my colorless blender. I do sometimes use those little generic makeup sponges for the colorless blender. What that does with the colorless blender, it helps to even out some of those lines so they're not so pronounced. And I just keep going back in until I get the colors that I'm satisfied with. I like that sunset. That it's not really a sunset. It kind of is a sunset. Like the colors are kind of like a sunset, but the sun is high up in the sky. So whatever, use your imagination. It's a card and it is my interpretation of how I would like to create it. And I just think you'll see. I'm going to take the mask off. I'm going to do a little bit more blending here first, but when I take the mask off, then I color in the sun. Again, these are so easy to work with and to blend your background. Just a super quick way to create a background for your scene. All right, so before I pull that mask off, I want to stamp the image onto the paper. That's one thing I forgot to mention. You want to go ahead and make sure that so for this card, I don't think I end up covering the sun at all with my image that I'm stamping, but if you were, you would definitely want to stamp first and then remove your mask. But that's always the best practice. Stamp first and then remove your mask. I'm using VersaFine Clair Nocturne ink, which is nice pigment ink. You can also use Catherine Pooler Archival ink. Works out very well with this. Oh, I just love the way this turned out. I'm so pleased how they look like they're on the lake, and the water with the blue and then the pink, like the sky kind of, I don't know. I don't know. What do you think? Do you think it turned out nice? I'm pleased with it. I am going to stamp it one more time just to make it nice and crisp. And that looks great. Now, let's go ahead and color in our little dock where they're setting. I'm going to leave the paper in the stamp positioning tool because I'll probably end up stamping one more time. That's what's nice about Pan Pastels. You can stamp over them, or you can do your ink blending, your pastel blending first and then stamp over top. So you're seeing a little combination on this card. So I did my background, which is my horizon, with my paper. And by the way, I'm using Hammermill Premium Color Copy Cover paper because it's nice and smooth. When you play with your pan pastels, you want to have smooth paper. The smoother the paper, the better. Not glossy, but real smooth. Hammermill paper is great for that. If you can't get Hammermill, there's other brands out there that are very similar. So yeah, I'm just using the tool. This one is like a little makeup eye applicator for eye makeup, but it's not. It's actually a special made sponge from Soft. It's called Soft, 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 Softy. They're the ones that make these sponges and these little applicators for making your pan pastel projects. And I'm trying to make this like dock, kind of remind you of a faded wood dock. And I only wish that I had some dies that were like cattails on either side of the stamped image, but I don't have any that I'm aware of. I looked through my stash and I couldn't find any, so I'll have to put that on my list someday to get cattails dies, because I thought that silhouette would look nice if they were on each side. So instead, I'm just going to grab some brown pan pastel and color on underneath the pier and then on both sides. Super easy. If you have arthritis in your hands like I do, having pan pastels is a nice change. You don't have to worry about the pressure. You can just gently, you're just gently rubbing the pan pastel over your paper. Oh, so I like how this turned out. It just kind of reminds you of sand or something on either side of that pier. Now, I'm almost done with my video, but I wanted to let you know that at the end of the video, I will have a still shot of this card and the card I made before. So make sure you hang out for that. And you'll notice I'm using an eraser. Another great thing about pan pastels is you can erase them. And you can't do that with ink. When I was when I was pan pastel blending there, I was trying to blend a little bit of brown and accidentally got some on the vest of the father, and I didn't want it to be that way. So I just used a white eraser, not a mono sand eraser, just a white eraser, and I just erased what I didn't want there. Now, this looks pretty nice. I'm pleased with it, but I feel like the colors can be just a little bit brighter. So I'm going to go back in with some blue, and my ink is dry by now, and I don't have to worry about it smearing. That's one thing. If you do this, if you apply your pan pastels over top of an inked image, make sure that inked image is completely dry first. Okay, so I'm just grabbing my other palette with the blue and the ultramarine, and there's purple as well. And I'm just trying to make this water look a little bit bluer. If you're new to my channel, I'd love it if you would subscribe. Please give this video a thumbs up. And I'm getting really close to having 3,000 subscribers, so I'm really excited about that. Would love it if you can help me get to that number. I will have giveaways once I reach that number. It's always a fun thing to celebrate. Okay. All right, so just adding that little bit more pan pastel, I think really helped make that a little bit more pronounced. Now, there's one other thing you can do, which I didn't do it on this. I'm just colorless blending this right now, by the way, in case you're wondering what I'm doing. You could take colored pencils and actually color in. So see the back of Dad's vest and the little boy's hat? You could actually color those in with colored pencils if you wanted to. But I liked it the way it was. I didn't feel like it needed to be colored in. Yeah. I think I'm just using some light blue right now. Now I'm going to be removing the mask, and after I remove the mask, I apply some orange into the shape, but I don't have any video footage of me filling in that blank color. So I just wanted to let you know that once I pull this mask off, my video will end, and then I'll be going to my still shots. So this was a pretty simple card. You can see that I have some die cut words, Happy Father's Day. Those were from Elizabeth Craft. And then I just used sort of a white wood grain panel for my mat behind my image that I used Pan Pastels. And there you can see how I made the sun really bright and orange. And here's one more picture of my first card. And don't forget, you can use my code, which is TJ10Tracy, to save 10% off your order at Technique Junkies. And that's for everything except for stuff that's on sale. So it does not apply to sale items. Thanks everyone for watching. Have a hopeful day. Hope to see you tonight on my YouTube channel at 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Bye-bye.